So hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who I am Lily of Lily's Book Vlog. And we're gonna do another kind of, and it's not really a challenge, I guess, but it's more of a reading vlog. But I'm focusing now on the Serena, I think it's Valentino, series, the villains, the Disney villains. There are, I think it said 12 out. This is 10 of them. One of them I have already read, which was book 10, so it'd be like here, which was Hades, Fire, and Fate. And basically what each of these books are is that they go and focus on a Disney villain and their story and kind of the backstory, but also kind of a story that's inside it. So when I read the Hades one, it was talking about Hades and his basically fight against Hercules and what he was doing and stuff, right? But then there was another story of like, I think they were 3 like witches or something along that tale, and they had a backstory and stuff. And so it's kind of going to have it where it's focused on them and what's happening to them, as well as these Disney villains and what's going on with them. So, like I said, Hades was book 10, which was far down the line. And so I kind of don't 100% understand the one story, but reading Hades' story, you can kind of read. So if you're not focused too much on the story in between the stories, you can read these however you want. So the first one is, what is it? Fairest of them all. So, what is it? The Evil Queen, Snow White. So that's the first one. Then we're gonna do Beast. I laughed because my daughter was like, he's not really a villain, but then technically, before he got cursed, I guess he would be considered one. Then you have Ursula and stuff from The Little Mermaid. Next is Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty. This one is Mother Gothel from Tangled. And then we have Odd Sisters. This one I'm not too sure, but I think it might focus a little bit more on the story. The other additional story, maybe. If not, the apple kind of makes me think of the first one, Fairest of Them All, so maybe it's like that. Not sure. A lot of these, again, I haven't really looked, because again, you look at the main characters on the cover and you kind of have an idea, but if not, you're like, I'll read the next one. And then you have Cruella from 101 Dalmatians. Then you have Lady Tremaine, or the evil stepmother from Cinderella. And then you have Captain Hook from Peter Pan. After this would be, again, the Hades one, which I've already read. And then following that is Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. So apparently you have 2. And then the only one I don't have is Queen of Hearts. And I think that's the newest one because my library just doesn't have it. I was able to get all of these by putting a hold on them or finding them just on the shelf. So there is that. So, like I said, we're going to start with Fairest of Them All. So give me a minute. And these are, a lot of these too are quick and easy. Like, look how small this is. This might be 100 or so pages. Like I said, this one's super small. So I don't think this will be super long. But like I said, we're going to start with this one. And they have like their own titles, which you can't see because they're written in black. But right here it says Fairest of Them All. And one thing too, and I love and hate that you can't see it, but so you see the cover here with her, and then it's hard to see, but it has her as the like evil little witch, and they each have it where if you were able to take off the dust jacket, you would see the evil crazed kind of one. So like I said, that's the one when she's the little old witch going and trying to poison Snow White. So there is that. But like I said, we're gonna start this. I don't know how long this will take me. Like I said, some of these are super small and short. A couple of them are a little thicker over here. But we're gonna do that and we'll see how things go. So I will keep you guys updated as I read these. Alright, so update real quick is that I did finish Fairest of them all. I already forgot the title. Like I said, these are really quick. It's the next day, so it's super quick and easy. God, love the sounds in the background. Super quick and easy. It was very interesting to learn the story of the evil queen. Like I said, these have it where they go like kind of deeper in, and this one didn't really show too much of the other side that I was talking about when I mentioned Hades, and there's like his story, and then there's like these other people that you're kind of learning about. This one didn't really have that, but based on what I remember from the Hades story, I think I have an idea of how it's gonna go, so that will be interesting to see and all that. But like I said, this was pretty interesting. Like I said, it talks about the evil queen. She marries Snow's father. Snow is young. You don't know about the age. The one thing that this kind of struggles with is like the grasp of a timeline, kind of. Like it'll say like it's been a few months, but like how much is a few months? It'll say like, oh, a few weeks, a few months, years passed. But like the way it kind of made it seem at first is Snow is young. When the evil queen marries her dad, you never learn her name, the queen's name. She's always referred to as the queen or the mirror maker's daughter and stuff. So that's kind of interesting. But you kind of see the change as slow as it is and how it kind of like consumes her, and that's what makes her like change basically. So it was pretty interesting, and I like the way that it kind of still tells the same story of Snow White, but without it being exactly like Snow White. And it's of course from the evil queen's perspective. So there is that. So I gave this a 3.5. It was good, not great, but like it was interesting. So there is that. So next is going to be The Beast Within. This is book 2. And like I said, we will see how this one goes. Like I said, I'm curious about how this one is, because since he's not technically a villain, really, I don't know how it'll go, but I will keep you guys updated, probably either tonight, if not tomorrow. We will see. But yeah. Alright, it is update time. It's late at night, and I just finished The Beast Within. I think I give it like either a 3 or a 3.5 star, or maybe a 3.25 star, roughly. I know on Goodreads it's a 3, but Fable, I'm not sure. But I will say it was pretty interesting. I did like the way that they kind of showed how he was kind of considered a villain, technically, in some other people's eyes, maybe. It was a little different than the movie and how he got cursed and stuff, so there is that. I'm hoping I'm not blocking the sound, so I gotta move it. But it was interesting in that. I will say that the one thing that I struggle with this book is the timelines, because it kind of just goes all over, and it doesn't give you like a notion of time, so you don't know. So it starts with him being the beast in his castle with Belle in the castle, and then it skips to before he got cursed and like past little tidbits of his life before then, and then it goes to him getting cursed, which again was different than how the movies did it, and then it goes to the time after he got cursed, kind of how it took time for it to like happen, and then it goes back to the time in the beginning of the book. But like I said, it doesn't tell you, and it's not telling you how long again things are, which I kind of get, but it's also a little harder to follow the story because I'm like, what's going on? Oh, we're back in the past. Oh, we're in the present. Oh, like, how long has it been? So there is that. I will say too, there's a couple of things in here. One is that it's interesting because, again, since Gaston is a later book, he's mentioned in the story, obviously, because they're the same movie and stuff. So it's interesting how he's mentioned in here in a certain way, to where technically I wonder how it's going to be brought up for that one, if it's going to be the same, because then it's kind of repetitive a little bit, maybe a little boring, or if it's different since it's Gaston's point of view. So I can't wait for that, because that'll be interesting. And then I did like a little bit of some mentions here and there of the other stories. So like it talks briefly, very briefly, about the evil queen. It talks in a like an offhandish kind of way of Cinderella, which I think too kind of messes up the timeline. But I think too, like when you're thinking of the story with the Odd Sisters, which that's what the three like witches are, they're called the Odd Sisters. And then they have a little sister named Circe in here. But when you think about them, I feel like it's like they're in all sorts of different timelines. It's not like a set timeline. So I feel like they can go in the past and the future and stuff. But that's just a theory on my end. But it would make sense because it also mentions Ursula's book. Or not Ursula's book, but Ursula. And she is the next book. So I'm curious about that. But yeah, so the book, The Beast Within, wasn't a bad book. It was just a little all over the place, a little slow in certain parts, a little frustrating with certain things as well. If you're comparing it to the movie, I wouldn't, because it's nothing like the movie. There's certain parts where it does reference parts in the movie, but because of the fact that it's talking about before kind of the movie, that's the part where it makes it a little more difficult, I think, to get into the like happily ever after kind of thing. And because of the first book, I'm kind of disappointed that we didn't get like a little more of an epilogue kind of thing in here. Just a little bit. But like I said, the next one is Ursula's book. Like I said, it's hard to see, but it says Poor Unfortunate Souls is the title. And so far, I think her book is the smallest. It is a little under 200 pages. I think after this starts getting thicker and like longer. But I think also too, because after this story, I think it's starting to focus a little more on some of the Odd Sisters and their tales, as well as the tales of the villains. Because like I said, these aren't just talking about the villains, there's like another additional story inside the stories. So there is that. But like I said, I will keep you guys updated on these. They're pretty quick and easy, so most of the time it's me just popping up on here telling you my thoughts and feelings on the books and stuff. So we will see. But yeah. Alright, so it's been a couple days since I last updated. And that's because life has been just a little chaotic. You know, the best kind of fun to have is chaos. But I did finish Poor Unfortunate Souls, or Ursula's book, I think 2 days ago, maybe. Like I said, this was the shortest one, pretty quick and easy. I think I gave it a 3.5, I think. A lot of these are turning out to be 3s or 3.5s, so there's that. This one wasn't too bad. I read a couple of people's reviews, and I don't really see the hype for this book as much as people said. They were like, oh my god, like she totally was justified in her stuff, right? I don't see it 100%. Like I get it in a way, But like I feel that the story didn't build up enough to get to that part of her hatred and stuff. Just felt like it was like a quick, like I told you, like, oh, I dealt with this and I dealt with that, but it doesn't like show you. It's the telling the part, not showing. Whereas, like I said, I finished that one. I'm reading Maleficent's book, which is Mistress of All Evil, is what it's called. And hers is a thicker book. I'm not quite too far, but hers is showing me her past, showing me how she was like mistreated and stuff, and like why she would feel the way she is or turn out the way she did. So this is showing me, whereas like I said, Ursula's is just telling me. The one thing I did like, or actually a couple of things I did like with Ursula's story, is that with the first two books, I kept saying that the timeline was so confusing because you would go from the past to present, or no, you would go from the present to the past, and then you wouldn't know when you went back into the present time and stuff. So that part was confusing for the first two books. Ursula did not do that. It was pretty straightforward. It was happening consecutively with bits of the past showing up or being told. But it, like I said, it was more telling, so can't really go back and tell the stuff. The other thing I like is that it did have a really big important part from the Disney movie, and that is her song and stuff. And so it actually like has the full like lyrics kind of like broken out and like done. And so of course in my head I'm singing Poor Unfortunate Souls and stuff. So that was one thing also that I liked about that one. I did also find it interesting that there's not just the Odd Sisters and Ursula, but there's other characters that are kind of showing up in there. And so I did like that. Like, there's a character from the Beast book who you're getting to see and hear like part of their story and like what's going on their side. And so that was good in that sense. Since I am only 100 pages in Maleficent's story, so far, like I said, I like this one too because, like I said, it's showing me why Maleficent is considered the mistress of evil, why she would be so like angry or cold-hearted or like the way she is, right? And stuff. And it takes off like right after the Ursula story, kind of. So that's kind of one thing that I like, is that there's not like a weird gap or like you're just all of a sudden jumping into the story. It kind of starts off going into her story. Well, there's a prologue and then it goes into the story right off the bat. So there's that. And so, like I said, I will keep you guys updated on where I am. Like I said, life is chaotic right now. This morning, my son woke up and I woke up to him throwing up. And so I was like, ooh, no, fun. And he is nonverbal and autistic, so trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening. I'm trying to listen to because I don't trust him being asleep. But he, like I said, throwing up nonstop, crazy. And then we are trying to get in the process of moving. So this vlog may end in a different place, but I don't know where, because it's one of those, like, not that we wanted it to be last minute, but it's turning into a last minute moving, and there's all these little hiccups that are causing problems along the way. So yeah, so like I said, I don't know how long or when I will get to finish not only Mistress of Evil but the other books, but like I said, I'm gonna do it as best as I can. So I will see you guys later. Hello. So it's been a while since I updated for this, and I went back and I looked, and I completely forgot to update when I finished Maleficent's book, Mistress of All Evil. I had to go back too because I had to look and see what the last one I did was, and I thought I did post a video, or not post, but I thought I recorded the part talking about this because I was like, I feel like I did. And what happened is I recorded the one talking about Ursula's book and how I had finished it a while and had started this, right? And then I was talking about how I was in the process of moving, which I think that messed me up too. So I don't remember what I rated this, but like I said in the other video, for the most part, these are 3s, 3.5s. This one might have been a little more because, again, it was really good in the sense of like building up the story and stuff and like really kind of showing you what happened. And like this one had a little bit of a twist to where it was kind of like, oh. So there is a part in there that I'm like, wow. And mind you too, this one also focuses a little more on Tulip, who we saw in the Beast story, and her nanny, who also happens to be like a witch or something, I think. She said a fairy, but like showing more witch kind of powers. So there is that. But that showed more of that as well as Maleficent's story. And then also talking a little bit more also about the Odd Sisters and then their sister Circe, who like you learn a little bit more about like why they are the way they are and what's going on and stuff like that. So there is that. And this one ends kind of almost similar to, what was it? The movie, what is it? Sleeping Beauty. I haven't seen Sleeping Beauty in forever, so I forgot. But it does kind of end basically with her getting slayed as the dragon and stuff. And so I will say it's interesting in that sense. So I did finish that. And mind you that I afterwards, I moved some receipts. What's that? Oh, I should do that real quick too. Almost forgot. So then I finished that. And like I said, we've been moving. Finally got a little bit of time a couple days ago to kind of start reading. So I finally was able to pick up Mother Knows Best, Mother Gothel's story, or Tingled. And this one is very interesting. So this one, I said in Ursula's, hers was very short and quick and like didn't really kind of like build up. Like you got to know a little bit of why she was evil, but it didn't like show, it just said. And I said in Maleficent, it kind of really showed that, but it was also more present tense kind of. With Mother Gothel's, it's again showing, which again I really like that they're starting to show and not just say like the reason they're this is because of this kind of thing, right? It's really showing kind of how it is. But this one's kind of confusing because again what is going on is kind of like way different than what you would expect. So like apparently with Mother Gothel, she has 2 other twin sisters who are both older than her, and stuff, and they live in the land of the dead, and their mom was the queen of it, and then like they're stuck on it and they can't leave and no one can really come in except like the dead. And so they're witches, but then since they're not all identical, they're not strong witches. And their mom let them know. And there's no like love between their mom is what they're saying and showing. But then like it got to a part where it almost seemed like a really big climax and like, oh my god, wow, crazy. And then it's like now back down. So it's like going up and then it's coming down and then it's trying to go back up. So that one, I'm on like page 143. And so I'm close to kind of being almost halfway with this book. And so it's also a thicker book. And I'm really curious about how this one's going to go because, mind you, I don't think I watched Rapunzel's story, but like I know of it and I know pieces of it and stuff. So I'm just curious how this one's going to go. So we're going to keep going with this one. I'm going to hopefully remember to do the update when it ends, and then we'll keep going. I got to figure out the order again because my books, I had them stacked in an order, and then when we moved, they got moved. So we'll see how that goes and do that. But I will now officially keep you updated since we finished moving. Well, for the most part, finished. Now it's unpacking, which is chaos in its own sense. So I will see you guys later. Alright, so I have a couple of updates. It's been only one day since I last updated when I forgot to update about Maleficent's book. And I was on page, I think it was like 143 of Mother Gothel's book, which is Mother Knows Best. And I finished this, and I want to say I think I gave it like a 3.5 stars. This one was really interesting. It gave a lot of insight into Gothel's story and like how she came to be, and it was like a deep dive. But I think also kind of is giving more kind of almost background story, because like I said before, this has it where it talks about the villains, but it's also talking about the odd sisters and then their sister, which is not their sister Circe, which you find out later. So this gives some more background in that. I will say the only issue I kind of had really with this though too is that it took such a long time, and like I love the building of it, right? I love that, but after a while the build up takes so long that I'm like, when are we gonna get to the part where we know about Rapunzel and all that? And then once we got to the part with Rapunzel, it went so fast. So like it took such a long build up to it, and then it got to the part and it was like boom, done, quick and easy. So I did like it. It's just it took a long time, and there's some parts where again a lot of these stories, they have little loopholes or little pieces that I think are left open kind of on purpose, because the authors are going to either use it for the next story or a next part and stuff. So there was that. And then I read and finished the Odd Sisters book. So this one specifically is about the Odd Sisters and their sister, who's not their sister, Circe. And it goes into their tale about like how they came to be, all the stuff that they did, all that stuff. And this one ended on a big old cliffhanger. This one I actually gave 4 stars because even though, yes, it's not talking about a specific Disney villain, which some people had, it's giving you insight into the sides of them and stuff. And it kind of really connected really well with Mother Gothel and stuff. So this is definitely one where if you read Gothel's, you'll want to read this one. And one thing I loved about this one as well that the others didn't have, and I wish they did, is it has like illustrations and stuff. So it has pictures for each of the like beginning of the chapters and stuff. And I really like that because again, it gives you a look and it like helps build up the world and stuff. So I really like this, and I wish all the stories had like something like this. Even if it's not every chapter, every few chapters, it would be so great if it just included a picture. But I did say this one was a 4-star. This one had a big cliffhanger at the end that makes me really want to know how it's going to be like settled, and if it's going to be settled in the next one, which I am already kind of currently reading, but I'm not very far, which is Cruella's story, The Evil Thing. Interesting. I didn't look at the title for this one, but I am currently reading hers. It's interesting too because my daughter brought up the fact that all the other ones are kind of like older times. Like, there's not electronics, there's not cars, there's not stuff like this. And Cruella's story does involve cars, so she was curious how that was going to be brought in, because all the other stories are before cars, before electricity, before all this other stuff. So we're going to see how Cruella's story goes about. But like I said, this one is also pretty thick and stuff, so we're moving along. We got 2 finished in the month of July. We got Cruella's story, we got Lady Tremaine's, Captain Hook's, and Gaston's, and then we're done. Unless I can get the Queen of Hearts one, but I would have to see, because I don't know if my library even has it since it just came out a few days ago. But yes, so we're trudging along, we're almost done, and we will see what to do next after this whole series, which is taking a lot longer than I thought, but it's actually kind of interesting. So see you next time. Alright guys, we're moving along kind of fast, which I kind of like, because I'm losing a little bit of hope with this series right now. And I don't know, again, this is book, what was it? I think this is book 6 or 7 in the series. And I'm slowly starting to lose interest and care. Like I said, the Odd Sisters, loved it, was great. This one, I didn't care for it. This was my lowest rating one. I think this was a 2.5. And the only reason I got probably even the 2.5 was because there's small mentions of stuff that actually connected it with the rest of the stuff, the series and stories. Like, there's a thing where Cruella as a child was reading about Princess Tulip and Oberyn and Lord Trees and all this other stuff that's mentioned in some of these other books. But I hated this one because I think a couple reasons. One, I didn't like it because it was basically told, like, almost kind of like a diary. Like, Cruella was telling you herself, like, what was going on. But it was, like, her older self. So kind of like, the way it mentioned it at the end is that this is, like, Cruella's memoir. And she's talking about what happened and how it happened. But deep down inside, basically, Cruella was just a spoiled little brat who wanted her mom's love and attention and didn't get it. And kept trying to do anything and everything to get it. Which, again, it's realistic, it happens and stuff. But, like, it was just annoying. And, like, the way she would go from one thing to another, it was kind of like, she would learn and be like, oh my gosh, these people really are my family, I should treat them. And then her mom would come back and be like, what are you doing being, like, friendly with the staff? No. And stuff. And then, what was one thing? One thing, too, that I kind of liked was the possible aspect that these earrings that her dad got, that her dad said he got from an antique shop, and that they were cursed from a pirate who found it and stuff. And, like, when she wore them, things happened. So, like, that kind of made it interesting, but the fact that you didn't know 100% if the earrings were the cause or if it's just her snotty, spoiled attitude. Like, the earrings are there, but, like, it was just, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And like I said, literally there was just little mentions of the other stories. And yeah. So, I didn't like this one. 2.5. Started Lady Tremaine's, which is, I think, like, book 8. And then I think I have Captain Hook's is book 9. And then Hades, which, like I said, I've already read, is book 10. And then it would be Gaston's. But I'm starting to lose interest, so I might have to, like, read something either in between these real quick to try to help. But I'm also afraid that if I do that, I will just drop it completely. And I don't want to do that, so I don't know. But so far with Lady Tremaine's, it's almost being just like Cruella's in the sense of, like, spoiled kind of thing. But again, I'm only, what page? Like 50, I think. 48, 49. So there's still some, but it does go back finally to Nanny and the Fairy Godmother and talking about Cersei and the Odd Sisters. So maybe there's a little bit of hope that I'll get re-interested into it. But right now, like I said, I'm not holding high hope for this. And yeah, I might just have to pick something else up to make me want to read this, or just like, again, force myself, which I'm scared to do because I know if I force myself to read a book I'm not interested in, I might get in a slump to where I don't want to read anything because of it. But I don't know. But yeah, so we'll see how this goes. I don't know. We'll see. I will let you guys know next time. Okay? Alright, guys. It's an update, and we are slowly kind of chugging along. Excuse my hair. I just got out of a bath shower, so it's kind of crazy, wild, wet, all of that. But last time I think I was talking about how I needed to take a break. I needed to read something else because I was losing my mind, because for, what is it, like 7 books, I've only been reading this villain series. And normally I don't do series back to back to back to back. I tend to spread them out pretty wide. I think the closest one I've had recently, there's been a couple, but like those ones I didn't even know fully, or like they're still spread out and not read one after another, and they're not like 10 plus books long. So I did take a break. I did read something else, and I will say that it helped so much, because once I finished reading a different book, I went back and I finished Lady Tremaine's book. What's it called again? Cold Hearted. I gave this one, I think it was a 3.25. I think I said 3.25. It wasn't bad. It's one of those things where in a way it almost felt close or similar to Cruella's, and I think that's why I almost wanted to stop, because again, I did not like Cruella's story. It was dragging on. It was horrible. This one, like I said, it was set in England, and I was like, not another one where it's like proper like etiquette and all that. And there are some stuff in here still that's kind of like, why? And I don't like it. Like, she ends up meeting Cinderella's father through a friend of hers, and then like she only knew him like a day, maybe 2 days, and then all of a sudden they're engaged, and then he's like, oh, you must come out to my kingdom right away with your daughters. She's like, okay, cool, whatever. And she does. And then right as she gets there, he's like, oh, right away we need to get married, because, you know, I can't have an unwed lady and her daughters living in my house. And she's like, okay, makes sense. She goes, gets married. He leaves for 7 weeks straight after they get married and stuff. And then you learn to find out that she had a reason to be angry with Cinderella's father and stuff. And it does almost slightly, like, it doesn't explain how Cinderella's mom died, and it doesn't explain 100% how Lady Tremaine's husband died. Although you get a little bit more into his passing than Cinderella's mother. But you get to find out why she does treat Cinderella the way she does. And it kind of makes sense, which is weird and stuff. But then, like, basically after Cinderella gets married, it takes like a dark, crazy, twisted turn a little bit. Like, not dark, but like definitely like she lost her mind. So there is that. There's not much mention of the odd sisters and stuff. You get the littlest mention in the beginning of Nanny and the fairy godmother, and then near the end of them. So there is that. And then I was debating on if I should read another book in between that one and the next one, and instead I jumped right in. So I am page 122 of this. This one is pretty short compared to the others, but I know Gaston's is really long, which is weird because I don't get how his is long when we already had the Beast. So I don't know. I might take a break in between Captain Hook and Gaston. But this one too kind of almost makes it seem like the last three are like present day kind of things, almost like future in the England London setting kind of thing. So there is that. Some of the stuff with the stories and their timelines are kind of weird, because I know with Lady Tremaine, again, it talks about Cinderella, but way back when I read the Beast story talks about a girl who lost her glass slipper, or a prince who found his wife with the glass slipper. So I don't know how the timelines are really working. It's very odd and weird, but so far Captain Hook's book is not too bad. Like, I'm still interested in it. I don't see him being a villain yet, but I see like his motivation for things and stuff. And like I said, I am almost, if not more than halfway, I think more than halfway. 252, so close to halfway through this book, and I'm not seeing the villain part yet, so we shall see how it goes and where we're going. But we are so close to being done. I don't think I will get I don't remember what the 12th one's called, the Queen of Hearts one. I don't think I'll get it in time because on my library app it still shows that it's on order. So we might have to just read Gaston's book and then call it quits, and then I'll just have to like randomly pop in the Queen of Hearts afterwards. So we will see. But so far, like I said, it's not a bad series. It's interesting, it's good, but I do think that it's one of those things where reading all of them in a row is going to take a lot out. So I think, like I said, I might have to take a little break from after Captain Hooks to read again something else, something not so like centered and focused on one little world and series and stuff. So we'll see. But this is turning out to be a very long video from the way it's going. So tell you guys what's up next time. Probably when I finish Hook and start Gaston's, probably. If I do go right into it. We'll see. But yeah. Okay. Hello. My phone just started recording. This is not how I wanted it yet. But whatever. We'll do it. We'll work with it. So this is the end. The final one for now. We might add later just a little bit, but not much. But I finally finished. Hold on. We'll stack them all together. We finished this whole series of, what is it called? The Villains, I think is what it's called. The Villains. Trying to get a good light where it doesn't glare. But we finally finished it. Like I said, super glad to be done with it. I don't even know where the thing is. They're all out of order. Well, that set is. This is what I finished this month so far for July. I don't know 100% what I last said. I know, I think it was Captain Hook, I think maybe. I'm not sure. But I finished Captain Hook a while ago. Think this one was a 3.5. Again, most of them are 3.5s. Only a couple I think were 4. This one was quick. It was easy. Interesting in a sense, but also confusing because in I'm dropping things. In these two books, you have pieces of jewelry that are cursed, that are in an antique shop, that, lo and behold, are from a pirate. And I was confused because this comes after these two. But apparently, as described in this book, the timeline for the Odd Sisters and the fairy tales and all that is not just a straight path. It's just all over. It's very weird and interesting and confusing, 100%. But with his, basically, he got sent to Neverland when he was a boy. He fell out of his pram, which I'm still confused what that is. If in 7 days you're not found by your mother, you're stuck in Neverland forever as a lost boy. And it's only boys because girls aren't stupid enough to fall out of their prams, apparently. That's what it says. And so he does that, but he wants to go back. But then he gets this interest in pirates. And, like, he's part of the, like, upper London society that, like, marries their sons off for money, or their daughters off for money, and the sons get the daughters' money from the other family, stuff like that. But he wants to go back. He becomes a pirate, talks about his adventure as a pirate, and then there's the part where he either has to listen to Cersei or Cersei's mothers, and he listens to their mothers because they say they can grant him his one true wish, which Cersei can't, and also help him get to Neverland. And so then they make him go and give these items away to the antique dealership, which is the items that are later mentioned in these two books. So it was interesting and stuff. And I think, like I said, I think I took a break after this because, again, I'm getting to the point where I was burnt out with this series. And Gaston's story, 400 pages, people. 400 for this book. I finished this finally, but I did not care for half of it. Like, in the beginning, the first, 200 pages, it's all about his childhood, and he had a crappy childhood, but, in this book, it makes the prince or the beast, a jerk. No. But then there's also a part where, it's confusing because then, you do get a part where he talks to Cersei, because Cersei was in the Beast book. And that was interesting. But then once it got to the part where he met Cersei, and then after and all that, I just didn't care because it was basically I was reading this one again, but from his perspective or slightly different perspective, and I just did not care. Look at the difference between these two books. I want to know why the Beast was such a snob compared to Gaston, who actually, kind of legit had a way. And then, of course, near the end, it wasn't even really his influence. It was the Odd Sisters. But 400 pages of this, I did not care. This is probably a 2.5, which means it's kind of down here with Cruella, because Cruella's sucked. Like I said, I did not like hers. But, his was so much longer, and I just didn't care. I didn't. So, there is that. Am I glad to be done with this? 100%. Will I ever read a big series like this? Not in a 2-month period, probably. It will be spread out. I think there's a reason I don't read the series back to back. Because, like I said, I broke up some of these last, these ones. Like I said, I read a book in between this, or when I was reading this, I had to stop and read a different book because I didn't care. In between that book and this, I read a book. After this book, I think I read 2 books, or at least I read one and finished the other one. So, that is it. I'm done with that. I know I have a hold for the last one, but thankfully it's going to take a minute. I will read it, but it will probably just be included in a reading wrap-up where I will mention probably the series. But like I said, this took a lot. And yet I have a different Disney series that I got because I saw it on Facebook. So we'll see. But thank you guys for watching. If you did, this video is going to be so long. I already know it. I'm going to try to edit it, but I don't know how we're going to cut it down shorter. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. Tell me what you guys like. What series, villains, Disney movie is your favorite? If you think you know what's the next one after this that came out in July is the Queen of Hearts. But if you have an idea of who they're going to do after that, let me know. And make sure if you do like what you're seeing that you like and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.